Hi viewers, today we have Mr. Umar Waqar with us, who is a freelance journalist and has a keen eye on India. He, through Corby Syndicate, has published number of articles in domestic and international magazines, and nowadays he's working on what is happening in India. Recently, we had this article Moody's War on Reason published in the Nation. We'd just like to have his frank views on how does he see India. Hello, Mr. Umar. How are you?
Thank you for having me, sir. First of all, I would like to interconnect one of the articles that actually appeared in the Economist newspaper and slash magazine about the ongoing problems in India and how, from an economic power outlook, what the Times had actually, the Economist has had projected India to be before, has now shifted into a perception that India is, under the leadership of Modi, is moving towards a Hindu nationalist country, basically, with a very Nazist and fascist ideology. On the what the article actually tells us is that how Modi and his goons are actually trying to divide India on sectarian and religious divides, and are also playing communal hatred, inciting people to violence, and in order to achieve their goals in the coming years, in accordance to their manifesto, they are all doing this for ensuring that Hindu Rashtra is actually established.
Okay, great. I think you also mentioned that Amazon's CEO, Jeff Bezos, was in New Delhi in, I think, January, early January, and he had some tough time. So what happened? Why Jeff Bezos was targeted, although he wanted to do some investment, I suppose.
Yes. Well, Amazon is very active in India. In fact, when it comes to Jeff Bezos, he actually is investing around $1 billion in India right now. And when he went there basically and announced that he's going to do it, he was met with sheer criticism by the RSS cabal, saying that your organization, one of the prime supplementaries of Amazon, that is the Washington Post, actually, they said that that newspaper is causing some trouble in terms of perception building for the RSS, as well as Moody in general, because Washington Post tends to highlight the atrocities happening in Kashmir, as well as the ongoing crisis happening in India with regard to CA and NRC. And the most interesting point is that, irrespective of how the world sees India, Moody, especially the BJP IT cell, are working on different agendas, and from boycotting The Economist to the Times magazine, which actually reported this entire issue back in May 2019 as well. Now they have come up with this very, I would say, funny hashtag, basically, which actually says that India should hashtag boycott economy, not The Economist. It's very funny as to what the nature of the BJP ID cell is trying to project. I believe that the main concern is that when it comes to such organizations, tend to embolden themselves when they know that they can get away with these things. And I would just like to add 5 points as to why BJP and the RSS cabal thinks that they can get away with such things. Number one being that since they have initiated this bravado of imposing Article 370, as well as basically the removal of Article 35A from Kashmir, taking an example from that, they think that they can also get away with stuff, irrespective of whatever the pressures they can face, whether internal or external. As long as they have received a tap on the head, basically, for an achievement well done in according to their manifesto, that was to remove Article 370 and 35A, their supporters are happy about it. So that has actually emboldened them to pass these ridiculous lawfares, such as the NRC aspect, the CAA, and now they're moving towards the NPR. Second point being is basically for the past 5 decades, India had built up its soft power and image, as well as a very nice tourist spot. And in that aspect, they basically believe that West cannot survive without the industrial might of India. The actual area, if you think the subcontinent like, with 1.3 plus billion people living in India, they think that it is one of the biggest markets for West to basically invest in. And having corporate interests with the West, then easily that can help them get rid of this negative perception about RSS or BJP, and thus it is easier for them to do such lawfare in terms of their position. The third point being is that now they have a clear majority. Previously, back in 2013, they didn't come up with that much of power, but now with around 303 seats, majority does say that they can actually do things and get away with it very easily now. And this has emboldened them to make progress in order to establish a completely authoritarian Hindu Rashtra regime. Number 4 point being is the rise of neo-Nazism in Western as well as Eastern hemispheres as well. The main area is recently when a particular segment of selective people were selected by the Indian government, representatives of supremacist white forums as well as extremist members of the different parliaments in EU came up, and they actually took them to Srinagar for a walk in the park and telling them that look how things are calm, basically. So under the umbrella of Islamophobia and the aspect of Islam being the greater danger and everything, they can justify these things, basically keeping in view such people to go along with them in the power ride. And the fifth point being is their manifesto at the end, which they have repeatedly said, basically after the court resolution of Babri Masjid, 370 and everything else right now, their major purpose is to establish a Hindu based popular constitution by 2023. And in order to achieve these things, they have to polarize the society, otherwise they won't receive the majority vote. So they're pretty much confident about doing that, I would say.
Okay. India claimed, especially the diplomats, that they should actually dehyphenate themselves from word Pakistan, and they're too big. I mean, Pakistan should not even be mentioned in the discourse. But do you think the Pakistan bogey is still alive in India and is being played by BJP?
No, yes, it's pretty much alive. I mean, in fact, the recent statement from their prime minister that they can just wipe off Pakistan within a span of 7 days, and they can, do a lot of other stuff. The point is that without having this made up enemy in the space, basically an arch nemesis in front of the people, with having an emerging danger coming from that side. And then had that been an issue, if Pakistan is such a downtrodden country and India doesn't want to compare with it, they actually went on and named the Delhi election as Pakistan versus India, basically. So if you vote for Aam Aadmi Party, you're actually voting for Pakistan there. So that's the whole concept. I mean, at one end, when you see Pakistan, which is a struggling economy, has somehow got so much power that it can influence secular parties within India, and it has got all the time to do that rather than looking after what is happening here. So that's a very, I would say, ironic statement when it comes to major BJP players and everything, especially in their media as well.
Okay. Now, the last point regarding uh, you mentioned that Indian establishment is now penetrated by the RSS cadre. How much is the penetration? Is it just a perception or it's a reality? If you look at intelligence, the services, the army, then even judiciary. So, do you find any signs of penetration of establishment, bureaucracy, and even corporate sector with RSS cadres?
Well, I would like to say that as what happened back in history, with every fourth or fifth division, there was an SS division enlisted by Gestapo elite in by Hitler himself as well as Himmler. So right now they have that much interference amongst institutions, being it a routine police inspector or a DSP to the army chief and now the CDS appointment as well. So you can actually see it right in front of us that Bipin Rawat as well as the new Indian chief basically using warmongering terms against Pakistan, against their own citizens as well, telling them that they have to be put up in detention centers in order to stop radicalization of youth in Kashmir and other areas as well. So, and then they're also targeting students who have been asking for their basic rights in India, that you have whatsoever no right to question the might of the BJP regime as well as the armed forces within India. So, under the whole umbrella of RSS and BJP being dominant on the political front, they are actually ensuring that they penetrate into the institutions as well. Exhibit A being the Babri case as well. Very subtle, very careful. It has been solved, but at the end of the day, you know which party actually gained benefit out of that. And another aspect is a DSP level appointed representative of the police actually in a video saying that the protesters and people standing up against the Citizen Amendment Act should go to Pakistan. I mean, why would a government figure actually say that? That's a very strange phenomenon, and it has been happening in India for a very long time now. So the world, rather than having a cozy cushion about India that everything is hunky-dory and somehow they have that corporate interest in them, need to wake up basically before we have this new shaped Hitler monster in the 21st century. And pretty much that is actually expected if the world doesn't stop him.
Okay, great. I think we'll end up here. To summarize, I think it was a very frank talk on Umar Waqar's article, Moody's War on Reason. One, that RSS is frustrated and they are now labeling everybody, anti-India. They are even
Yes,
calling Economist
definitely.
and Time and Jeff Bezos and even Deepika Padukone. The other is the five factors that he mentioned, which are basically encouraging BJP, and I think the most important being that international community is too much. Maybe they think that India is a big market and they can get away with it. So they've done it in Kashmir, in occupied Kashmir, and now they're trying it in mainland India. And then, of course, is the convergence of interest between the neo-Nazis which are rising in Europe and the RSS cabal in India. And we saw it happening in Srinagar. And finally, I think a word of caution from Mr. Umar Waqar that in case the world doesn't stop here, doesn't stop India, we are going to have another Hitler rising in 21st century, and that will be a very bad omen for India and entire South Asia. Umar Waqar, thank you very much for this candid talk,
Thank you for
and
having me.
we'll get back to you later. Thank you.